to Cosplay on a Budget. I am Shadowstorm Cosplay,
And I'm Wapan's Cosplay.
Yay! So, we're gonna get right in on it. So, everybody thinks, you know, cosplay, it costs a whole lot. Yes, it can, but there is lots of ways to cut costs and make things a lot more affordable for yourself. First thing of all, general rule of thumb is the more time spent on a costume, the bigger and better it's gonna be and everything like that. You know, there's lots of closet cosplays out there. From anime, Lukoa, she's pretty easy. It's a tank top and shorts. Anything from like Gravity Falls, that's pretty easy to find and everything like that. But there is ways of making larger costumes for quite a bit less. For me personally, I did a Squirrel Girl costume. My brown bodysuit that I got from from Value Village for, I do believe it was about $10. The brown leather jacket I got for about $8. It was a size too small for me, so I ended up actually having to chop off the arms to make it shorter for the character, and then I used that extra bit of fabric to make the jacket bigger for myself. And the boots I got for about $12. So fairly reasonable costume. The only major piece that I had to make was the tail.
So example, how much did it cost to make your costume right now?
This one here, this fabric, I do believe was about $6-7 or so a meter. Unfortunately, the cape was about 6 meters worth of fabric, so that cost me quite a bit.
And I noticed that there's a lot of panels that you have, so it's not really like a full cape like how I have, because mine's tiny.
Yeah, this is a full-on like Dracula style cape.
So let's say when you guys are buying material and you start noticing, hey, I'm actually missing a certain material, or this only comes a certain length, or I need a piece that's like a square and it's a full rectangle, then in that case, how do you turn that into what you have right now?
You do need to have a decent amount of fabric. If you can get like a full rectangle, your best bet is to get double what you need and basically make almost like a triangular shape if you want to get the fullness, because there's different styles of capes. There's just like the Superman cape, which is like almost like straight down. There's more of the triangular style cape, and then this is the full kind of vampire style cape. So this gives you the most amount of, you know, floof and action and such, but again, it costs quite a bit more because there's a lot more fabric put into this. The basic cape will be about a meter or two of fabric. Next one will be about 4 meters. This is 6+ meters. So.
And per meter, they run you like $10, $6?
It depends. Like I said, this is like a satin that I got on sale for about, I think it was about $7 or $8 a meter. So I was going more for the color and for the flowiness because I'm extravagant.
And I guess another thing about, for me myself, I'm more into the armor, not so much in the cloth. So my biggest problem with, hey, I need, let's say, 10 meters of fabric and I need a red. Hey, that looks good. It's only $2. I bought everything out broadcloth. All of my material, all cotton, all broadcloth, so now it all comes out like a rag. So I guess the problem is, let's say if I can only afford a certain material,
Yeah.
and I have like an indefinite timeline, because I'm just starting cosplay.
Yeah.
When should I start buying material, and how can I make sure that the material I'm buying is not the cheapest thing and it looks good, but it's still within my budget?
I would say cotton broadcloth, try to avoid it. It's very thin. It's not the greatest stuff in the world. If you can, try to go to a cotton twill. It is a little bit more money, but it is going to be a lot more substantial and is going to hold you up. If you're going for any kind of a costume, take a look at Value Village. Honestly, Value Village is one of your best places for costume resources. Even if you're not going to find the exact thing that you're looking for, you can find something and you can convert it into it. A friend of mine actually found a beautiful green full-length dress at Value Village, and she transformed it by hacking off the sleeves and hacking into pieces and made Merida out of it.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it's not the most screen-accurate Merida, but you get the point across. It is Merida.
And I assume that for most of us, we are just starting in cosplay recently. Can I get a show of hands who actually started their cosplay journey?
Like newbie cosplayers?
Oh, not newbies.
No.
Soon to be started.
So we still have a lot.
Yeah.
And that's good. So, because right now we're talking all about buying material, allocating time, and how to actually make the final product with limited resources. Who wants to start their cosplay journey, but is at a time that is like, hey, I really want to do this. I don't know how. I don't know how much it is. It looks like, thank you.
Yes,
yes, that's a much better crowd. It's a much better crowd. So yeah. So I guess from our panel today, hoping that we can get into that so you can know how to allocate your funds, how much time you actually need, and where to get started so you don't waste all the time
and resources
material there is.
Yeah. So
I guess getting into the time and resources portion of cosplay is now of course confirm on what cosplay you want to do. Because the major problem is that new anime come out every single season for at least 12 to 24 different anime per season. Every year you watch 100 different anime, every character there's 30 in there, so there's way too much to choose from, but dedicate yourself to a character that you will like. Even if you think about it, you don't like it, that's fine. Eventually you're gonna stare at it for $1,000 an hour, you're gonna fall in love with it, no matter what you do. You have to like it. So from there, then you can dedicate yourself into breaking up parts on what you want to do. So the thing why you want to start breaking it into, let's just say if I need to start making a mask, or if I need to start like making just the headpiece, or you get into the gauntlet, the hands, the cloth and stuff like that, then you really need to start breaking down into what kind of resource you have to start buying. As Shadow Storm was saying, that you should really start buying into Value Village, finding parts, finding just anything you can find that you can keep in the back of your head, saying that, hey, I can use that for so and so.
You also have to take into account your ability. If you're just starting off with sewing and stuff like that, I wouldn't recommend making a full-on armor piece like we have over here. Try to keep it simple. I'm not going to do don't tell yourself, I'm going to make myself a full Gundam when you have never made a single thing in your entire life. Try to think within your skill level. So there's nothing wrong with closet cosplays. Closet cosplays are amazing. They're cheap. They're fast. You can do whatever you want. But if you want to start getting into the sewing, pick a costume that is mostly closet cosplay, but has, say, a cape. And then you can make the cape. And then you can just start with little baby steps, and then you can work your confidence up. Because most of my sewing skills are all just I've done for over the years. I've learned just by myself. It wasn't until my late 20s that I actually took a fashion design course, so everything else has just been self-taught. So, yay, self-taught! And I've had my friends be like, teach me sewing, okay? I would cut out the fabric for them. I'm like, this has to be a straight line. I'll put it together, sew that, and just had them start with straight lines. Or it's, we need to cut this out. You're gonna cut that out. Pin the piece down, cut that out, so.
So finding material, finding time is one, finding characters is one thing, but finding a dedicated friend and partner is another thing.
Yeah, if you can
Motivation.
If you can get free help, it's always fun.
So one thing is that getting to all the cloth armor. Usually in cloth armor wise, they do have smaller props and weapons. Sometimes they perhaps only have a gun. Then it gets a lot more easier to make. Now, in terms of selecting the props and the weapon that will be an accessory to your character, you don't always have to have one, because I mean, if it's going to be your first cosplay, you might as well have yourself as free as possible. Don't carry too much stuff. Don't fall into the whole giant sword thing in the first day of your con. It's hell, don't do it, please don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can. So what I always do is that when it gets into weapon, it's a little bit more difficult because it's not really right on your body, you don't cover yourself up. That's great, that's done. Because a lot of times when you're buying material for weapons and props, you usually would get bulk pieces of foam. Like of course everyone talk about EVA foam, EVA foam, I don't know what they're called. But they are just yoga mats that come in 4 sheets, and per square meter, it's only $1 per square meter. Pretty damn good for the price. What I start getting into is go to Kitty and Tire, ask for the sales, go to the back door, look at the very top shelves, like, that is damaged, I want that on discount right now. You can, don't do it as a jerk, but how you really should start is, instead of buying all this material and start cutting them up, hoping that you'll become a shape that you need for your cosplay, you should print it out. So for big weapons, if you need huge size weapons like that, then the best thing is I go to Staples. Staples in most of the printer store, they have something called a blueprint drawing or an architecture drawing. They can print you anywhere from, like that's a 2 feet wide paper. They can print anywhere from 2 feet wide paper, and for $5 you can print to about 3 feet to 5 feet. And just make sure you print in color. I mean, do not print in color. It's going to cost you $80, but you print in black and white, $3 to $5, and you can get yourself something that looks like this, and so you get a sense of how big everything is. Does this really fit? Does this really fit on what I really want to make? And if it doesn't, that's fine. Just print another one, or you want to save yourself that $3. Just make it when you're making it. Just make it a little bigger. So when you have something like a paper model, then you know that I only need this much, so I don't overbuy, or I don't accidentally cut way too much or cut them too little. For foam, if you do cut them too little, you can glue it together, but it just doesn't look right. So after you get into the paper process, make yourself a prototype. Usually for myself, I don't build anything fancy. I just take all my scrap foam. Now what I love to use, something that's light and sturdy, is pink insulation foam. You can get it from Lowe's, they are blue. You can get it from Home Depot, they're pink. And you can get a garden basket for green. Don't go to garden center, they ripped you off like no tomorrow. Home Depot, cheapest one ever. My budget wise, $20, you can get yourself a piece of this table, double the size. And so for $20, you can pretty much prototype up to 5 sort of this size. And we only have 2 hands. So I think that's pretty good. Now, from this, all you gotta do is take that piece of paper, cut it out, put it on the foam, and just start cutting it out. So you don't waste material and you know exactly how much you need. Now, the problem with foam weapon is that if you just leave them the way they are, let's say that's just a piece of foam, they are very floppy. Like super floppy, and eventually they'll break. I don't worry about that. And so, usually what I do is that I go to the dollar store, I go visit gyms, I go visit the nearby garbage can, and I go visit anywhere I can find scrap piece of wood. So what this is that, don't tell any of my Kendo friends, they're gonna kill me, but this is a Kendo Shinai. So Kendo Shinai, what they are is a piece of bamboo that they use for fighting. Now who goes to anime shogatsu? 1, 2, woohoo! Anyway, so why is it anime shogatsu? It's because at anime shogatsu, it's JCCC. At JCCC is a
Japanese cultural,
That's
yes.
coming up. That's what I wanted to go
Thank you.
to.
So what you do is that in there, they always have Kendo tournament. They have the archery, they have Kendo, and they have the karate tournament when we are in con season. From my Kendo experience is, they break hundreds of swords every tournament. Go to the scrapyard, go to the bag, it's near the back. Free shit, free stuff, grab them. So what's the benefit of having these is that because they're lightweight, they're easy to work with, and they are always blunt tip. So when you're finding material, try to find something that is light, easy to handle, and something that you can hold up. My rule of thumb is that if you cannot hold up a sword for more than, let's say, a minute away from your body, it's a little too heavy. Because you can be holding it on this.
You're gonna be posing with it forever and a day.
Yeah.
And
So it's
especially
like, you're
when
not
it
gonna
comes
be
to
like, dying.
when it comes to photographer, they won't want you to hold it like that. They won't want you to do like a baseball. They want you to be like, bam, for 5 minutes, and yeah. So you gotta make sure that, or one, you can train a lot of your muscles if you really want to. And so now the next product is, so we have the skeleton of the sword. Now if you cannot find any piece of bamboo, dollar store, broom handle.
Yeah.
You used to be able to buy them at $1 if you go to Pacific Mall at the very top location. You can go to any dollar store, but they can cost you up to $2 to $3. It costs more than a coffee! So don't drink that coffee, buy yourself a piece of wooden handle, you get a sword. Yeah. So from there, now the good thing is that now you have all your pieces measured out, like all your scraps and all that. Then you can really start shaping into it, because you know how big the pieces are. And if you notice that some of the pieces, after you do shape them and you need more pieces, you can add in extra padding material, such as foam. So one thing about a budget cosplay versus I can use very nice material like Sintra, Worbla, or faux wood, or I can make it out of stainless steel. It's not allowed, by the way, don't do it. From there, they tend to be very soft and brittle material. So how we get away from that is always make sure that the inner core of the structure is the hardest point, and the outer part, it gets softer and softer and softer. Because on the inside part, you need to be structured, but on the outside part, a big weapon or any props in general, they will always get banged up and stuff like that. And repair is also a cost. So on the outside layer, I always use either EVA foam, yoga mats, something that you don't mind getting abused. Like this, I can probably like squeeze into it and then it holds up pretty well. But pink foam, once it crushed, that's it.
Yeah,
So
pink foam's cheap, but it's very, very brittle.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so getting into, so from all that, you have, if you have a piece of, okay, so let's start, we have a piece of paper, $5. Let's say $10 if you print two, okay? Let's say two. So you have $10 on a piece of paper, $2 of a piece of the wooden core dowel, so that's $12. The foam-wise, the most you can make, maybe if you spend $5. Of course, that's one piece of pink foam, but you get 5 swords. So, you know, let's say 20 bucks. So right now, we're still under the $35 mark. Now, that's all cool, because you get the shape of your sword already for under 50 bucks. 35, right? But the next hardest part that I still have trouble with is how do you finish it? Paint is usually the one that will cost the most amount of money. Because every different color, you will have to buy it, well, one every different can or bottle or whatever you use. Spray paint is going to be one of the easier material to use if you have a ventilated area. But let's just say if you are going to be in an apartment situation, you're in an indoor environment, or you have people that are more sensitive to the aerosol that comes up from spray paint, then you really have to start buying into acrylic paint. Don't fall into buying one individual color. Try to buy a pack of bulk that will give you the most color. So you can start mixing yourself. The thing is that I find that paint can go up to $30 to $40. So if possible, I try to make weapons that are single color. I mean, it looks like a weapon, it's fine, it's pretty cool and it's durable. Then the reason why you want to do single color, or you can do easy generic color that are all stainless steel. Because once you start having that one color, you can then transcend that into whatever else you want. Because most fantasy weapons, the swords are stainless steel, silver, or red for fire, I don't know. But you will have your own base color. So find items that you know that you can reuse and repurpose for your next cosplay. So you're just planning out your future, right? And if painting is not your thing and it's starting to waste a lot of color, or if when you're making your cosplay, you have a lot of scrap lying around. Fabric could also be a finish for a weapon, such as this.
Yeah.
That, aside from the red and the gold trim that you see on the blade, everything is fabric. So that is actually a 4-way stretch. This might be 14 up, but you know those spandex pants, those very tight pants that are gold, people go partying in the 80s in?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So those guys, you can easily get a piece of something of around
Leggings.
this cloth size. Then you probably get about 3, let's say 3 meters, give or take, right? The length?
Yeah, about that.
3 meter by 3 meter, you can probably get it for about 20 bucks if it's on sale. From there, you can probably finish your entire sword finishes and more because you're doing your cosplay. So usually the good thing is that when you're building your weapon and props, they generally match your character. So if you have scrap material, put on your weapon.
Yeah.
And so that will help you to save a lot of cost. But all this, it depends on the time that you're going to be putting into it. So something like that, which would take a much lower material cost, can take a much higher time. Especially when we all have a part-time or a full-time. When we come home, we probably have maybe about 1 or 2 hours to work with. That really eats it up. So you can if you want to save on material costs, but let's just say if you have a little bit more time and you want to save on the material costs, but you don't mind working more into it, you can get into material like wood. Wood, it's going to be easier to get because in any Home Depot, in the back recycling bin, you can find them quite easily. But the thing is that cutting wood, sanding wood, and working with it, it does take a lot longer. Now, if you go, my favorite place at Home Depot or any automotive industry dumpster, just a dumpster in the back of their shed, because you can actually find acrylic.
Nice.
Now, acrylic is an amazing material to work with. People don't, in con-wise, you don't have to worry too much about it because there's not too many bans on acrylic just yet. And for a sheet, you can probably have it finished. But the problem is, it is a free material. You get your job done. You don't have to paint it because I like it clear, but you have the effort and time to sand it, to cut it, and to use a blowtorch to clean it up. Is it really worth it? These are considerations that you need when building a full round cosplay.
Again, this is more stuff, look within your skill level and stuff like that. Start with the foam ones, and then as you get more comfortable with stuff, then you can start moving up into the more extravagant weapons and such. As far as fabric and stuff goes, like I said, Value Village is one of your best friends in the world. You can find shirts, pants, whatever you want there. Another thing that's also great in Value Village, go over to where the sheets and the tablecloths and everything are. Like this here, if I can get 2 of these, I can easily make a dress out of this. And you can get these at Value Village for like $8, $9, whereas brand new fabric from the fabric store, you're looking to paying about $14, $15 a meter for that.
Just because it's upholstery does not mean it cannot be used for dresses.
Yep, you just gotta watch the thickness. If it's like really thick upholstery, you're gonna be pretty darn stiff. But something like a tablecloth, it's got a lot of flow to it. I like using this type of stuff because it usually does have a pattern on it, so that also adds some intrigue and adds extra detail that you don't have to do to your costume. Like I plan on making Sansa from season 7 of Game of Thrones, and I have an actual couple of sheets that have like this really nice stripe design in them, so I don't have to do it. So that's just one less thing. As far as making patterns for costumes and stuff like that, look at what you have. I've done a Rocket Raccoon costume, so his basic orange bodysuit that he wears underneath, how I made that was I took a pair of capris that I knew already fit me, and I took a tank top that I knew would already fit me. I laid them out flat on their sides, and I used that and traced that as a pattern. And that's how I made the full suit. So look at what you already have existing, because you can often create patterns and stuff like that from what you have. You can also take what you also have and adapt it into making different patterns as well. Saving on having to go out and spend $14 to $26 and up on buying a pattern from like Fabricland or whatever. Like I spent the money to get this actual like pattern, but I know I'll have that pattern now for in the future if I want to make another cape, and I can also shrink or widen it by doing what's called a slash and spread. So basically you slash your material up, you slash your paper up to almost the very top and spread it out to make it wider.
I'm just going to say,
Sure.
Would it be easier to draw the patterns out for the weapons as well, instead of getting them photocopied?
Yes, you can certainly do that. And so what I like to do is, when you start printing your weapon, you can always, because at a base minimum for maybe $2 to $5, you will always get a 2x3 piece of paper. If you can, when you're asking them to print it, you can ask them to print it way on the top, so that you have more space on the bottom that you can start putting your paper pattern. And so we had a discussion about this earlier about reusing patterns.
Yep.
And so from there, then once you have that one pattern that will fit you, unless you start going bodybuilding, then you can generally reuse that.
Tell me about your weapons.
But weapons though.
Oh, weapons.
Yeah, using paper
That's
patterns.
like you can draw like out yourself a weapon.
Yeah, you can draw it up yourself too. Yeah.
Getting a picture off the internet.
That's right.
I mean, it'd be a lot cheaper.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
definitely is. A whole lot cheaper, and sometimes with printout off the internet, you don't always get the highest quality. So a lot of times, yes, a lot of games come in HD, they show you the picture, but of course, what if you don't find it? Then yes, feel free to just draw it in. When you start getting into that situation, then any paper that you can probably get at a dollar store, what I like to use is in Walmart in the kids section, they always have these boards that they pin up into those easel, and you get like maybe like 100 sheets of they're not really nice paper, but they're good draft
It's
paper.
that thin like newspaper.
It is, and
stuff.
generally those ones you can probably get 100 of them. They do cost you $20, but it is cheaper and it's a good big size of paper you can work with.
Yeah, and I will say from doing pattern drafting, we use that quite a bit for making our initial patterns before we even went on to any kind of like tissue paper or anything like that. We used the craft paper.
I know you can also get the craft paper by the roll and
Yep.
the carries.
Yep, yeah. Again, you're gonna pay a premium though because it is at.
I bet that could make about 1,000 different.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
It's just like a cheaper price, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. And a lot of time, craft paper, especially if you're going with the Bristol board that are 2 for $1 at dollar store. Just an example, or you can get a raw one if you want. Because they are quite stiff enough, you can actually start using them as just your armor piece. Because once you start spray painting them, you can start painting them, they are actually stiff enough that you don't even have to go through all these hassle. So for a for a budget cosplay, paper is definitely a viable option, such as cardboard. That could also be another viable option that you can transcend into.
Yeah, there's a cosplayer, I don't know if he's still doing it anymore, his name is Featherweight, and he literally built full-on Gundams out of cardboard. Just gluing cardboard together and everything like that. Yeah, he would make weapons and everything just by hot glue and cardboard.
Nice.
Yeah, Devin, he was made some really
Is he
fantastic.
still around?
I'm not sure. I just remember his very first costume was Thing from Fantastic Four, and he literally made all the muscles and everything out of cardboard, and then he glued actual rocks
I saw that
to
one.
the outfit.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
costume
Whoa.
weighed about
Yeah.
60 to 80 pounds. He could barely move. So, but it was one of his first costumes, stuff like that. So it was very impressive. I think he ended up winning a major award in the Masquerade and everything like that.
Oh.
But it was within his ability, but he could barely move in the thing. So you got to be aware of that. As far as, like I said, going back to fabric and stuff, if you can find what you need, but it's not in the right color, dye. Dye is your best friend. Always go for a lighter color to a darker color because you can't really go from a darker to a lighter easier other than painting. And painting fabric, it always ends up being stiff and looks like poo-poo.
Can you use curtains?
You can use curtains.
As a pet cape, more or less?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fabric.
Right.
As long as it's fabric, it's not too thick and it's not too bulky, you can use whatever you want.
Okay.
You can use a bed sheet, you can use a
Nice.
tablecloth,
Okay.
you can use curtains. You can make a killer cape out of these curtains in here right now.
You can actually make a very nice wedding dress.
I was gonna say, I can
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
I can make a full-on ball gown out of everything that's in here, no problem. It's like a
And a lot of
20-foot
times-
train.
When you do see, for me, I'm in construction, so when you see construction site, they have a lot of these kind of nice material that you can salvage from. So might as well use it. Oh, by the way, another thing about touching on into paper templating and paper cosplay is that a lot of the Japanese cosplay, they actually just print they print the net of what they need to fold out of paper. So I think the website is called Papika.
Pepakura, I do believe it's called.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like paper folding. Like, you know how you would make like the little, like, you know, critters and stuff like that.
Origami.
Something
Yeah.
like that. It's very
Similar to
close.
that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, let's just say, hey, I don't want to waste all these paper and time to actually make the shape that I want. Online resources that will give you that kind of net that you can just work off with, it works just fine. And in the long run, after you build it, you add on your own pieces of paper, you paint it. It's hard to really tell that you use some people's base material.
Yeah, do your research when especially if you're going to make any kind of a big build. YouTube is your best friend. I started cosplaying back in 2001 when we really didn't have a lot of YouTube resources. Nowadays, like, I'm just starting to make, like, I'm going to be making a big armor build coming up soon, so I've been watching all sorts of YouTube tutorials. I've been
Nice.
researching it online and everything like that. Like, even making Rocket Raccoon, I was researching furries and how they construct their tails, how they move around in their costumes and stuff like that. So do your research. You will end up spending quite a bit of more time doing that than actually making the costume, but put that extra work in there because you're going to make a lot less mistakes and you have something to, like, fall back on. And especially make friends with cosplayers, because I've got people going, how do I do this? Can you tell me how you did this with your costume? 9 times out of 10, the cosplayers can be like, absolutely, I will help you out. This is how I did this is how I did this, this is how I did this.
Yeah, that is very true. Sorry, you have a question?
Actually, I had something that you kind of like brought to my mind about
Sure.
the like tails and like
Yeah.
stuff. I actually did spend like a year learning how to make those and ears.
Yep.
But I learned because I use yarn to do mine.
Okay, yeah.
And I found the best thing is if you have people you know who knit,
Yeah.
who have leftover pieces of yarn,
Yeah.
things of yarn.
Mm.
Because I have gotten a lot of yarn from that. Like I bought some,
Yeah.
which is really expensive. Yarn is so expensive, but I found it easy. Like I got some off my sisters and like that, and it was the best. Like idea.
That's an amazing point because I actually got a lot of my scrap piece on here from Kijiji, where someone was actually making chairs like the one that you guys sit on. And that's what this is. So I actually bought a scrap roll of them and I just kind of make clothes. So that's amazing.
There are those recycle sites where you can get stuff people are just throwing out like their clothes
Yes,
or
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, do you have a question?
Well, I have another secret tip.
Sure.
To go back to like drafting patterns.
Yep.
If you're trying to make patterns and do the mock-ups and stuff, buy like 70% off Christmas fabric.
Yeah.
You can get it for like $2
Yeah,
a meter.
go for the cheapy fabric and make a prototype first. If it's going to be a big costume that you are going to be, you know, dedicated to and wearing for many years, like my rocket's been going for over 4 years now. I've had to repair them a few times, but yeah, make yourself a prototype because then you know what works, what doesn't work. Like literally put it through its paces, put it on, run around, bend, do backflips, do whatever you need to with the thing to make sure it's going to hold up. Because the last thing you want is to go la 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 and have the whole thing just fall off. It's like, oh, so.
So, same case, armor and fabric, exact same thing. So before I even start making anything out of foam, with the paper template that you have, put it on, hopefully it doesn't fall off when you put it on. It's just paper. But with that, it's a great way of testing out, can you really start bending? Can you do jumping jacks? Can you sit? It's a huge question.
You can find out where the stress points are
Yes.
on it,
That's
where
right.
the bending points are, so you know where you have to put some stuff.
If you can use the bathroom.
Yes, you made
I cannot.
You made
In my armor.
a good clear point. If you can't put your costume on and off by yourself, make sure you have somebody with you. I've had to learn by myself through trial and error with Rocket how to get him on and off. I can now get him on and off in under 10 minutes in my car.
So for most of my armor, when my partner is not with me, usually I would go into an empty room, lie down on the floor, and raise my head up and start wiggling myself out from whatever bucket I'm holding. So you see this guy trying to shed off his skin, and he's just like trying to get us off. So in that sense, yes, you can get it on yourself, but at the same time, it's the movement and how you're going to conduct yourself at a con. Usually I would wear full armor, but because at ConBravo, we are a little bit more tight in space, people are a little bit more cozier, you don't really want to start hitting into people, and so that's another consideration as well. So, you know, you don't always have to go full armor. And you have a question?
Actually, it's another tip about it, and I've learned this because like all my cosplay have all been like handmade stuff that I've done. And I've learned the best thing to do with, especially when it's handmade, is to go like have a day where you are at home and wear it and do all your daily activities wearing it before you do it. So you know if it can handle the daily walking around, not just like wear it and sit around and just do stuff in your house.
Yeah, that's what you put it through its
out.
paces. Yeah,
Right.
put it through the paces.
Because then you can see what you need to fix on it and stuff.
So touching on that point, wearing your draft out to do daily, this is an amazing idea because I actually walk my dog in it. And when I know I cannot pick up my Pomeranian poop, it's not good enough. I usually just go home, be a little bit ashamed of myself, come back up with a bag and pick it up and then go home again. So you get 2 walks. So that's another thing. But that's a great tip. Do your daily business. Sorry, you were first.
How do you guys travel with it? Like if someone's traveling like on a bus, they're going to a comic convention, taking a go bus, you have all these big attire. How do you guys recommend traveling that way?
So when making cosplay, I always plan it to see, let's just say for me, the biggest con that I go for is Anime North and Otakistan. Luckily, I have a SUV, so that's not an issue. But when I go to downtown, I don't want to drive there because parking is $60 for 2 cars. It's crazy. So what I do is that in that case, I just tell myself I'll make myself a comfy cosplay like this, a little bit more casual that I can do whatever in. Then that's what I bring to the con. So I am cautious in what I want to bring. There are times when I'm overzealous and over enthusiastic and I just make it anyway and kind of figure, I have nowhere to bring this to.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a problem. However, if that is starting to become a problem where you actually cannot bring it on a transit that you have to, you can have an option to, that's a hard one because
I know a bus you can put it under their luggage area.
You can. It depends. If you're a Go Bus, then you have that luxury. But if you're in TDC, then that gets a little bit more dangerous. So what I do is that I get usually I have those netted buggies that you get warm with the foldable ones.
Okay.
And then I just throw all my armor in there. I just kind of roll my armor out like and I just kind of go on there. And so what I do is that usually for a weapon like this, then you gotta do one of these like ninja kind of weave thing. You kind of strap on your back and you just kind of hopefully don't hit the bus top. But generally, if you do have a friend that can help you with that to at least spot you, that's a lot safer because.
Friends with vans are your best friends in the world.
I agree.
So basically build your costume around your transportation.
You have to. Unfortunately,
Yeah, okay.
That's the
Yeah,
tricky
yeah.
thing.
If your friend owns a smart car, you're not going to be able to get
No.
much in there.
Sorry, we have another question on that side.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you have used woods with foam and everything. I have a lot of difficulty. I make LARPing, and to glue that all together, what you use to put like clothes with foam and
Also, when it gets into LARPing now,
no, it's not just LARPing. I'm
in general
in
sense,
generals,
right?
how you do that? Like your sword. If I was me, it will probably torn apart where the handle is. I
So
don't know.
luckily, the reason why I keep emphasizing that you want to have your strong, hard material on the inside, softer material on the outside is because with the element, people bashing into you and the wind, and especially horrible time, hopefully we don't get rain on, please don't. The rain do take a lot of toll on adhesive as well as paint material. So luckily, if you do have lighter material, even if your glue is not as substantial, it can hopefully still hold on longer than you expect it to be. Now, in my method is that the cheapest method that I have is hot glue. It's going to be the easiest way to use for, it's hugely beginner friendly. Your hands are going to have fire resistant plus 100. And the good thing is that if you do, for the instance of messing up, you can always heat it up and tear it back apart. So hot glue is still my favorite. Yes, it is still a very beginner friendly, but not the most prettiest, best fine product that you can use, but it's still the most trustworthy one.
Hot glue is also a good thing for fabric as well.
It is.
If you want to ask anybody, ask drag queens. They use hot glue all the time to make costumes.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you've watched RuPaul's Drag Race, you've seen some amazing stuff made out of hot glue and a hope and a prayer.
Yep.
So one second. So getting back into the adhesive and the glue is when you're putting things together, gluing it. Yes, you can always just have material A, material B, hot glue, and slap it on. Yes, you can do that. But the only tricky thing is that the two material that you're sticking on, are they actually able to bond with each other with the hot glue? So the problem with gluing material is, let's say fabric, of course, it's going to glue amazingly well because there's a lot of little pores. So we call that a porous material, where it will take the glue very well, then it will stick amazingly well. But the problem with getting into things like vinyl, or even stuff like plastic, this is actually made from yogurt cups. So this is actually all free. It's, if you were to read my mask right here, it says 0% fat yogurt. Yogurt. That's the cheapest yogurt I can find, and I'm poor. So the problem with stuff like plastic, vinyl, or anything that are not, or even like acrylic and glass, they're non-porous. So that gets into a very sticky situation of not very sticky, because they don't stick. So when it gets into that, you may have to find another way to glue it, or you might actually have to start stitching, or you might just have to find other ways of doing it. Or just have so much glue that there's no way you can leave. You can actually encase it. And sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Amazing.
basically do your research on the stuff. Like, again, that comes down to the very basic stuff of, you want to build an armor versus to find out, hey, I'm going to be using EVA foam. How am I going to be able to stick this together? What's the best thing to stick it together? If you only want to last the day or whatever, you can go for the cheap option. If you want this to be something that's going to last you a while, then yes, take that extra time, spend that extra little bit of money, and investing in better quality products. Again, the more quality products you have, the better it's going to be, the longer it's going to last. Like, I spent only about a month or so making my Rocket Raccoon costume, and I still have to keep constantly repairing little bits of him because I didn't use the proper glue to glue the EVA foam to the vinyl that I have for his backpack. So I constantly have to redo it, which it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but he's held up pretty good, and it's still, I've only had to remake a few things on him.
And
Yes.
when it gets into repair, usually the time and the resource that takes it can be easier just to make a whole new one. That's
Yeah,
usually
depending
the
on the severity of the
Right.
things. So, okay.
case. I think we have a couple questions on this side as well. Do you have a question?
Actually, you kind of answered my question. My question was like, what do you do if? Because I found that some stuff, the hot glue just peels right off.
Yes, like what I have on here. AA super glue. Gorilla glue. I find
Gorilla
that
glue,
Yeah,
yeah.
Gorilla Glue is amazing.
so there are various different type of glue of super glue levels. Some are brittle that they do crack out, and they are not as flexible. So Gorilla Glue, I think is it enamel or is it epoxy?
Epoxy, yeah.
Epoxy, yeah.
Those are flexible. So that gives you that movement that you need, but it'll still stick onto
You
you.
can buy it at Princess Auto.
If you're looking for something a little
Yes.
less dangerous than epoxy, because that stuff is, as soon as it sticks, it's dead.
And you have to wear a respirator. It gets very toxic.
There is a product called Fabri-Tac Glue by Beacon. It's not cheap. I will tell you, like a bottle about this big will cost you about $15. But that's what's held my Rocket Raccoon together for all these years. That's what I constantly use to repair them. It is more of like a silicone kind of base glue where it does have a little bit of flex to it.
There is a website called thistothat.com where it tells you the best kind of glue. You just tell it, I'm trying to glue this type of material to that type of material. and
That's
it tells
amazingly
you
useful.
Again,
the
resources,
best type
yep.
of glue. Because, for example, while super glue is great for a lot of things, if you tried to put it on, like, say, foam, it turns into a noxious gas that
Yeah,
would, like,
say,
kill
yeah,
your
you gotta be
brain.
careful of that.
So like thistothat.com is the best if you're trying to find out what's the best kind of glue if I'm trying to glue, this to that.
Literally.
So you just tell
It
them
is,
what
especially when it gets to like paint foam. If you do spray paint foam right off the raw material, it will disintegrate and it does smell to high heavens. So,
kill your brain cells.
which is why I'm not the smartest
You
guy
kill,
ever.
you're killing your brain cells anyways by getting into costuming and stuff.
Yes,
That's the
Before-
long nights and the endless amounts of coffee.
which is why you must make sure that you have. It's also not by itself. Like ventilated air is one thing, but it's also the immediate family member that you have, your pets.
Yeah, be careful
Can they-
with your pets.
It is, especially when most of us are at our prime, but when you get into the older generation or the younger generation, their respiratory system is not as mature or as strong as how the prime is, so you have to be careful in terms of what you can and cannot use.
Yeah, my friend has chinchillas, so she has to be very careful about anything that she uses because their respiratory system is super delicate.
Question, now, if you're on a short time frame, like say you got a month at most, what do you recommend for if you're first starting out for a cosplay costume? What would you recommend to start with for your first time so you could build off that costume for the following year or build something better? What do you guys
Amazing
recommend?
question. So, one of the topic that I hope that we can get into is, actually, do you want to answer this? Or
Yeah, for something, if it's your very first costume, I would stick more to like a closet cosplay where something you can easily get from some place like Value Village or whatever, with maybe an element or two that you can make, like say you've got a gun that you want to paint up or something like that, or a hat that needs to have like some extra accessories, something like that. Don't be like, I'm gonna make myself a huge like armored piece like this as my first costume in under a month, because you're setting your expectations way too high, unfortunately, and that's the last thing you want to do is be like frustrated and literally the con crunch is real. Like the day before the con, you will literally have 2 pieces of fabric going, I'm gonna get this done! No, you're not. There is times where you have to tell yourself, you have to back away and be like, this is beyond my skill set. I cannot do this. And that's where you're reaching out for other people to help you, cosplayers and stuff like that and everything. So.
And getting to other cosplay helping is that. So a couple of things is, let's just say, you know what, you want to get how it feels like to cosplay or at least costume playing. You don't always have to make your own cosplay, especially when you crunch on time and you're still all flustered. So a lot of times people do go on Taobao, Kijiji, Amazon, or even Party Packager. There's no shame in that. You can actually buy a base material, especially if you were to buy yourself a morph suit that's like a Spider-Man. Or my favorite is that you can buy any pre-made that are solid color that you know you can reuse, like black or something like that. Then from those, then you can then build on top of it. However, when in doubt, you would always have a cosplay that you can play around, you can still wear.
And build onto it, add to it.
Exactly, so you're not giving yourself that extra stress. It's always that stress that gets most people not wanting to do cosplay.
And also to that question, what do you recommend for like temporary dyeing? Like you want to make your beard totally gray or you want to add some access to your hair?
That'd be hard because I don't have beard. So in dyeing process,
Baby powder is always a good thing. Cheap makeup. Honestly, go to the dollar store, just get some like cheap makeup. I have a pair of Judy Hopps ears, and I shaded them using cheap makeup from the dollar store.
Okay.
It does wear off.
Washable.
Yeah, it's washable, but yeah, it works. Okay,
I think that was.
the one over here in the yellow, you've had your hand up for a little while here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Feathers.
Yes.
Is there any reasonable way to buy feathers?
For not spending $1 bazillion? No.
Yeah, I need 1,000 feathers.
I did a feathered headpiece for the Hope card from Card Capture Sakura in the movie. I actually used, there's actually some really good tutorials on there on using craft foam to make feathers. It's a lot cheaper. Like you can get a giant like 3-foot roll from like Michael's for like $20. And of the thin stuff, and it will work perfectly.
It's time constraint an issue because I found feather from China on Alibaba or AliExpress, and you can buy them in bulk. They only sell it in bulk, so they have like they probably send you like a box about that big, where it's all compact. So they're not the greatest quality, but they are feathered right off the bat. The only problem is that you can only buy them in bulk, but you can get them at a reasonably cheap price.
You're
if you don't
also
want to make
waiting a
them.
long time for them to
It's a
ship.
long
Yeah.
way. That's why it's
Yeah.
time constraint issue.
Would it be good to get a pillow?
Okay.
Rip it off?
You've had your hand up
Yes,
for a
but
while?
pillow, people get memory foam and stuff. I've
Yeah.
never found a feather pillow before, and it gets very
Do they?
Feathered pillow is the down anyway. It's not really.
Yeah, that's only like
Yeah,
the little
you don't
short
get, like, the
feathers. You need the
full-
full feathers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
So I had a question about using fabric for cosplays.
Sure.
So I'm eventually gonna want to do a mother and daughter cosplay because my kid's like 15 months, but she's like wearing like almost 5T, so her size changes like faster than you can blink.
Yeah.
So like with something like that, would it be better like to like measure and just try and like make one, or could I still get away with like doing store like
Store-bought costumes at that point are good. If she's still into like onesies or something like that, take a onesie and like transform it into something. Like I've seen people take like white onesies and transform a child into the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. By literally adding like a little hat on their head, and boom, they're the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Or they have like a green onesie or whatever. You can get somebody, if you know somebody that crochets, make them a little Yoda hat. They're Yoda now. It's like, so.
Or
So
Or a
I had,
Pokemon, yeah.
my niece-in-law, she had the same problem with growing sizes. Her shirt in the back actually have, they're snap-ons. So when she grow a little bit, she remove a bit of snap-on, add an extra piece, and just keep snapping it on. So that's how she does it for her
Yeah.
Halloween costumes.
Okay, yes.
I guess like shape costumes. That. So you're basically dressing up as Purdy.
Okay. That's more been along the way of like the mascot style costumes.
Yes.
Those are quite difficult. I haven't really gotten into a lot of that. I've done a Squirrel Girl costume where her tail, basically, I used 2 old tomato cages to make the base frame. Yeah, again, resources. We weren't growing tomatoes anymore, so they were just they were just literally collecting dust, cleaned them up, clipped them up, bent them into the shape I need, stuck them into a piece of wood for the base,
Make a
and
frame,
yeah.
So getting into mascot cosplay is, you all know Mythbuster Adam Savage.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
He made a Totoro.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, I
a
know
small
that, yeah.
mascot. The thing is that of course he's way up there in price, so it doesn't matter. But so same method is that if you watch his Adam Savage Totoro build,
Yeah, it's the one-day build of Totoro.
that will
Oh,
give you
yeah,
a very
that's
nice
neat.
idea.
Yeah,
So what he does is
that's a good tutorial for making
is.
like a mascot, because he goes over how he makes the basic framework and everything like that. Now we covered the basic framework. He gets a little technical here and there, but you get the gist of it.
But in general shape is that, so this material, because their nature of it is a little bit more pricier, what I like to use is clothes hanger. And
Yeah.
the dollar store, it gotta be Dollarama, because they have the better clothes hanger. Dollarama, not dollar store. Now for a pack of $2, you get 25 clothes hanger that you can cut out, that you can use to bend shapes with. For the price wise, that's still the best what I can get per linear feet per price. So that could be your answer if you want to go that, Kirby. But once again, transportation and walking around, that's your concern.
Yeah, mascot costumes are tricky because they are big and bulky, and you're not getting a lot of view and everything like that. So I wouldn't attempt a mascot costume right off the hop. I would do your research, take a look at furries, take a look at other people who have done like Baymax costumes and other ones that are round like that. And even then, it doesn't have to be a giant round shape. A friend of mine is actually, she's here at some point today as Kirby. She crocheted her Kirby. So she's got like a little like bra top that she crocheted. She's got like little shorts that she crocheted, and she crocheted a big Kirby head.
Nice.
So she's Kirby, yeah. So using that was only like, you know, 20, 30 bucks or so worth of yarn, and she's got a full Kirby costume.
So guys, we have about 10 minutes left. So we don't get to your question, you can always contact us, or at least me, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you can always contact us for your extra questions, or during your adventure of cosplaying, or when you're shopping. Don't do it when you're right there making the decision of buying it or not. But when you're making your shopping, when you're building your shopping list, or what kind of character is more feasible to your timeline, to your personal life, you can always message us, and we can always give you ideas on how we can approach that. Sorry, you have a couple of questions on yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say kind of about how, because you keep saying that like with your skill set, it's really great when you do like group cosplays because everyone can do different stuff. And
Yeah,
so
that's where you're
doing,
reaching out to your friends and stuff like
so
that.
it's like instead of just doing your own, like I could do everything that I can do,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, look towards your friends. Like I have a friend who is really good with Warbler and stuff like that. So and making armor. So in my lovely little armor build I'm going to be going to, it'd be like, Candace, I love you. Please help me. Like.
Now, a question is, what for a starter? What would you say a good budget would be? Like,
it depends how wide your wallet is.
Yeah, it depends on your.
Well, if you're starting out, just like say,
right.
You got a limited amount of money.
Right. So my budget is for me, I try to make it as free as possible.
Okay.
But for myself, my personal budget is $10 to $20 per armor piece, or how worth it is. So when you're running a budget, but you want to get the cosplay done, a lot of times you don't have to finish everything. Example, if there is going to be a cosplay that you want to do, for example, and you're really trying to get all the detail done, but at the end of the day you have a shield and you're covering most of it anyway. Then of course there are pieces where you can just kind of neglect a little bit to dive back on your budget. So when you have to allocate funds, think about what would most people see and what would people appreciate the most. A lot of times is what they're originally thinking.
Yeah, like for example here, you can see most of his top half, his bottom half. He could be wearing a pair of jeans.
I am wearing a pair of jeans.
Yeah. So there's a prime example right there. You don't need to go out and spend like thousands of dollars upon like a bright pair of leather pants.
$100 budget would be perfect.
I'm sorry?
$100 for a full
armor.
$100. You can totally do it. You can totally
do a costume. Okay.
Yeah, because I think this cost me just under $100 max.
I was gonna say like 50, 60 bucks.
Yeah, I can generally pop out costumes for $100, $150 about max. I think my most expensive one was my Sessho Maru from years ago. That was about $300. But I had like metal and wood and all sorts of other stuff.
So usually for my armor set, let's say whatever I'm wearing right now, it did cost me about $70. I think it's decent. But most of my full armor, they can go up to $300 to $500. But that's a span of an entire year. So when you start breaking down, $50 a month is not too terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, go ahead.
I just got a question way in the back there.
You mentioned before that you can dye fabrics if they're not the right shade.
Yeah.
What are some budget-friendly dyes that you can use to do that?
You can get literally the big bottles of RIP dye for like $10 or so. Like I actually dyed the bodysuit here because it was a lighter blue. You only have to use a capful. So it's like, will last you forever. Also, what I've also used that has been successful is acrylic paint that I've watered down. I used, I have a Ray costume that I made. So for her wrap that goes around, I mixed up like kind of a grayish black fabric, dipped my fabric into it, let it sit there for about a good hour or so, hung it up and let it dry, and it stained it perfectly. Now, mind you, if you wash it, it's going to come out, which means you have to do it again. So you just got to be aware of that. If you want it to be permanent, go with the full dye. If it's something that's just going to be like draping or whatever, paint dyeing works great and it's super cheap.
And since you only need a little bit of it, if you find a friend that has like half a bottle.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I'm gonna put out my card in front. So if anyone have any questions or want to reach out, Go for it.
Yeah, I forgot my cards, but I am actually down in the marketplace along the one side wall there.
Alright.
I've got my table, so by all means, stop by if you have any other questions.
I
Yes.
also think there was a store that you forgot to mention. This is around the Hamilton area.
Cosplay for the win?
No, it's Len's Mill.
Yes. Lens Mills. There's also Ann's Fabric Shop.
And also.
Ann's is great for if you're looking for that like swimsuit style material, like the 4-way stretch. They carry a lot of that. Again, you're going to pay a bit more money because it is a specialty type of material. But if you need it for a costume or whatever, they do carry a lot of specialty fabrics. Fabric Lane kind of carries the basics. If you are in the Hamilton area, Ottawa Street is Fabric Street. That place is amazing. European Textiles. I went down there for my Squirrel World fabric. Basically, they wanted $50 a meter at Fabric Land for this fur. I went down to European Textiles and paid $20 for a similar fur.
Wow.
So much better.
Yes.
Mary Maxim is pretty good.
Mary Maxim, yeah. And when you go down to Ottawa Street, usually a lot of the places down there are like mom and pop shops, so they're like, you know, owned locally. You can kind of talk to them, and sometimes if you chat up with them for a while, they'll take like 10% off or whatever. They'll cut you a deal.
Is it good to go to that part of that costume rental place and buy all their old rental costumes if they're selling them right out? And then bill from them?
Yeah, they're good base pieces. Just make sure they're in decent, you know, condition.
And also
they're professionally made as well.
And also too, I've seen down in the marketplace, people are selling 3D printed armor, gear, weapons.
The 3D printed thing is kind of the new way of making armor and stuff like that. It's very easy. It's easily made because they just literally print it out. It's not really cost effective though. Like I've got a Diva gun that I bought. That thing runs about $120 just for the gun.
And you can probably make it for cheap.
Well, you can go to the library and make it. Here in the,
but the amount of hours that it takes for printing, you got to take that into consideration as well.
And what I noticed about 3D printing is that because they adhesive to themselves because they're glued on, when they start breaking and cracking, it does get very tricky to repair. So once again, the long run, it gets a little tricky. But yes, 3D printed is super stable.
It's quick.
It's amazing. It's quick.
It's quick.
But once again, you have to stand it yourself. You have to paint it. So yeah, they generally can go a bit more
expensive. I know a
expensive.
guy down there who's doing it in the marketplace. He's going to open up his buddy's store. They're going to start selling all the 3D printed stuff.
Sorry, you have a question as well?
Another thing that I found was really cheap for things that you need fur for was I got really, really big. I can't remember how big it was, but it was really huge. Of a white blanket that had 2 layers, a fabric layer and a fur layer.
Oh, okay.
So I used both the fabric and the fur from it, and I got a white one and I dyed it all the colors I needed, and it was great. It was really cheap. Like I think for a really big one that did maybe, I think out of all the costume stuff I did, it maybe did 10 to 15 different things. Obviously using a bit smaller things, not like full things, but doing that, and I think it maybe costed $5.
Feel free to just pass that around if you guys want to.
Can you grab me one? Which I think is a great idea. I can't remember where I got it though, which sucks. So I recommend it, but it was like really cheap, but it was good and it held together.
So we have about, so we can wrap up with the final questions because we have like 1 minute.
Questions, comments, concerns? Any other tips and tricks that people have learned over the years and stuff?
Now, it's a costume like you said you did it right. Would Finn be an easy costume to do?
Finn should be fairly easy, yeah. Yeah, you can do Finn.
Adventure?
No, Finn from Star Wars.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his main costume is
Just a leather, brown leather jacket.
Yeah.
Yes!
And by all means,
amazing,
again,
easy one, yes.
Yes.
Brown, if you're looking for leather objects or anything like that, go to Valley Village.
Yes.
I can't stress that enough because like you will find like Danier leather jackets there for
I've got one.
under $20.
I've got one.
Because later
And we have a
very,
question
very expensive.
She was asking about making a mother-daughter costume.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah.
This one's been wearing this costume for almost 5 years. Because when I made it, I put a ridiculous number of tucks in everything, and then every time they grow, you just let out a tuck. And
Let out a dart. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really creative.
Saves a lot of money.
That's a very smart way
Yeah.
to do it. Oh.
Anything you recommend for getting wigs or anything like making, or is it better off buying them already made?
You're best to buy wigs. Again, budget-wise, you can go to a party store and get a wig. It's not going to be great. Like this isn't the best quality wig here that I have on.
Looks good.
It's actually a Loki wig that had all the hair sticking up at the end, and I ended up actually using hot water to like streak it down. Arta wigs are fantastic. Again, you're gonna get what you pay for. Though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the cheaper the wig, it's gonna be shiny. It's not gonna look as realistic. They do get tangly super easily, and you can't brush them out that well. If you pay for a more quality wig, like say an Arta wig or a Rockstar wig or something like that, you will be able to brush them out and reuse and bring more life back into them.
And we ran out of time because they're asking us to leave now. Thank you very much, guys.